question for you, and it's a really big question because I often ask myself this question too, and it really is, when are you going to stop feeling guilty? Welcome to today's Finding Proof Live show. And today I am drilling into the uselessness of guilt. Now, it does serve a little bit of a purpose. I will try and tuck that in a little bit to what we talk about today. But today, for business owners and entrepreneurs, mental health professionals, all of you out there, creative entrepreneurs too, I think this is really going to hit you too. I want to know what it is you feel guilty about and why you're letting it get in the way of what you're trying to achieve. Because I know many of you are parents, and that's probably the most obvious source of guilt. How often have you felt bad about saying no to your children because you need to focus on the work that you're trying to do? Alternatively, how often have you felt guilty because you have to walk away from your office to attend to something with your children? Hi Dave, welcome. I want to know, what is it about this feeling of guilt that we are quite happy to give so much bloody power to, and yet we fight so hard to be confident in our entrepreneurial activities? So I know, for an example, here's an example from me today. I was in my office this morning. I had a meeting first thing. I had my new PA joining me in the office to attend to a few bits and pieces. I was going to be doing my live show, this very live show, this morning at 10 a.m., which is the normal time for the live show. You might notice it is not 10 a.m., it is now 5 p.m. or thereabouts here in Australia. And I had to rush. My meeting went over time and I had to rush. I had to leave the office by 11:30 a.m. to attend to things outside of the office. Now, the immediate thing that I was attending to was getting my pedicure done. And I left the office feeling like something of a fraud as a business owner, leaving to attend to my toenails. However, I was in such a rush. I went, I got the nails done, I came home to this room, my home office, and then proceeded to leap straight into a one-to-one mentoring session with a brand new mentoring client. And that meant that I couldn't take my kids where I had hoped to take them this afternoon. So there's all these weavings in and out of my day-to-day of guilty, feeling like an absolute fraud, leaving the office at 11:30 in the morning to go and get my nails done, feeling like a slack business owner, feeling like my team is working hard in the office while I'm going to get my nails done, and then I'm going home, and then I'm going away. Now, the funny thing was, when I worked with this mentoring client this afternoon, she said something to me that resonated with this idea of guilt. So she was talking about her business plans and her family. Now, I know what it's like to have a young family. Now, if you've watched enough of my videos, you're bound to have seen my kids photobomb into a video or photo that I've been working on. And you know what? I love having my kids around. It's around this time in Australia when we're getting towards the end of January, and people start asking you, oh gosh, are you sick of the school holidays yet? I bet you can't wait for school to go back. So school goes back around about the first week of February. And I find myself typically answering, you know what, actually, I quite enjoy my children. So no, I'm not looking forward to the end of the school holidays. But it is such a juggle. Finding time to work on your business, to put the effort in to what you're trying to achieve, while also being present and available for your kids. It is a real juggle. Now, I think I do an okay job at it, and I know I'm really lucky because I have my own business, and it's a long-standing business, and it's a fairly stable and secure business. And the work I'm doing with my second business, the Finding Proof and the mentoring side of things, is something I can do from anywhere because it's online. So I know I'm a bit spoiled. I know that. But, and this is the big but in the conversation, is I've had to work hard to get to this point. I didn't just make a decision. I made a decision 20 years ago. In fact, longer than that. I made a decision at the age of 25, which is almost 25 years ago, to go to university and study a profession that would give me flexibility. And then I worked bloody hard for 10 years to walk out of that institution with a PhD under my belt. And then I worked damned hard in a bunch of different mental health professional roles. And then I decided that I would give up all of my other working opportunities and focus fully on my business. Now, that was back in 2007, 2008. So when people look at successful entrepreneurs and successful business owners and they say, I want to do that because it's so flexible, they forget that there's all of that lead-in time when you have to work bloody hard to get towards that place where you're flexible. Now, for me personally, my rule is about trying to be as present as I can when I'm with my kids. So today, lots of guilt. Today's plan was that I would go to the office for a couple of hours, go get my nails done, come home, pack the car, take the kids to the shack. Now, the new mentoring client popped in, fantastic. Love to help new people meet new business owners and help them in whatever way I can. And then the other thing that happened was there's a forecast for 37 degrees tomorrow. And my little shack at the beach doesn't have any air conditioning. So I know that we'll all end up with migraines and whatnot if we go to the shack tomorrow. So I've had to let my kids down. Now, because I've had to do that, I could have chosen to spend the afternoon doing something else with my children that was focused exclusively on them. But instead, I found myself doing a number of work-related things, sitting right here with that damn dog barking at me all afternoon, going through my email inbox. There's about 85 emails and I never seem to get it below that. And looking at real estate websites to compare. I've got a lease that's up for renewal and comparing what else is around to see if I'm making the right decision in renewing the lease I've got or whether to, look for somewhere new. I've got, all of these things that I've been doing, I've been chipping away at, sending things into the office, doing things for Facebook, getting things up to speed on YouTube, having a look at what's going on in Instagram, and so on and so on and so on. So when I find myself with an afternoon that I didn't expect to have, it's almost like a guilty pleasure sitting here at my desk and working away at it. And I know you do exactly the same thing. So why do we insist then on making ourselves wrong? Why do we insist then on feeling guilty for taking some time for our business when we find we've got time? Now, if you watch Gary Vee or Gary Vaynerchuk, if you watch his videos, he talks a lot about working bloody hard. He says, give up the TV, give up the video games, give up all the other stuff and just focus on your business if you're serious about success. Now, I tend to err on the side of caution there. I think there's still room for relaxation, and I talk a lot about dust settling time, taking time to just let the dust settle and think. You can't do that if you're working and working and working without let up. You need to have that time as well. Yet we feel guilty as business owners when we take that, even though it's valuable. Even though it's valuable. We do the same as parents. We work hard so that we can provide for our children, and then we feel guilty because we're not spending that quality time with our kids. Now, my kids have got almost a week of quality time coming up to them as we're about to go away. We're going to spend a few days at the shack after the weather cools down tomorrow night. We're going to spend a few days at the shack. Then we're going to go up to Launceston, where my other office is, and spend some time with my team up there and really, spend some time balancing me with my team and visiting my hometown, which is Launceston, which is where I was born in Tasmania. So they will get lots and lots of fun, and I know that, and yet I will still catch myself feeling guilty about this afternoon working hard. I'm doing it now, talking to you guys, and I've got this little noise in the back of my head, like I'm talking about feeling guilty, but I'm not doing anything about it. I'm not putting the video away. I'm actually still here talking to you guys instead of being with my kids in the other room. Now, guilt is designed to stop us from doing the wrong thing. So as a species, we've actually evolved in such a way that around the ages of about 7 to 12 years of age, we start to develop our moral core. So You'll notice kids when they're about 4 to 7 in particular, they might start to experiment with lying. If you've got little kids, you'll have seen this stage where all of a sudden your darling little angels turn into raucous great liars. They're experimenting with their moral code. They're experimenting with the boundaries. They're experimenting with the truth because they now understand that there's a difference between telling the truth and telling a lie. Well, they're starting to anyway. So they start playing around with that. So our feelings of guilt are part of the emotional development. It's a normal, natural feeling that we have as a species. And it's partly designed to keep us safe. Because when we do bad things to other people, we damage relationships, which can work against us from a survival perspective. You think about it, go back to caveman days and think about, you need to have alliances. Think of the game, so, the TV show Survivor. You've got to build alliances so that you can survive. So our moral code keeps us on the straight and narrow as best as possible so we can survive. So our moral code kicks in when we're doing anything that could be a threat to our alliances and our survival, really. So what's the strategy? How do you overcome it? How do you not become a total asshole and still maintain time for your kids away from your business and time for your business away from your kids or from your partner or from your friends, whatever it is that you're feeling guilty about? You acknowledge it. That's partly why I'm doing this video today, because I'm acknowledging my guilt and saying, you know what, my kids have been quite happy. In fact, at the other end of this room, there's a spot where my son was actually lounging about most of the afternoon with me and quite happily watching a movie on his little iPad while I was doing what I was doing. So when I acknowledge the guilt and I say, yeah, you know what, yeah, that's a yucky feeling. I can choose to wallow in that feeling and beat myself up about it. Or I can choose to identify what I can do differently if I want to do something differently. Or I can choose very deliberately what I will do next. So you're feeling guilty because you've got your face in your computer and your kids are bored in the other room and perhaps even hungry. if I'm really telling the truth. And you're feeling guilty about not spending time with your kids. That's like a little warning flag for you to say, is it time to down tools? Now, if you really can't, so my next task this afternoon is to actually pay my staff. So I can't down tools yet. But I have a choice there. So my choice is, do I pay staff now and get all the jobs done for the day, and then I'm completely at the mercy of my children? Or do I take a little break, spend some time with the kids, sit down with them, have a cup of tea and a biscuit, talk to them about what we're going to do for dinner tonight and what our plans might be for our trip to the shack, and then come back a bit later on and do the work? I've got the choice. And so the guilt is like a little flag, a little trigger, a little warning, a little alarm bell to wake you up a little bit. Say, oi, what are you doing? Make a decision. Don't just get caught in the flow. Now, where guilt becomes toxic for you is when you try to squash it down and you get annoyed with it and you try to justify your actions and you try to override it. So instead of acknowledging it honestly and saying, okay, look, I'm feeling a little bit guilty right now. I've got an option of what I do next. Instead, I'm feeling a little bit guilty. Well, stuff that. I'm going to keep working because this is really important. That's okay. There's a time and place for that. But when we do that all the time, we start getting bitter. So my message for you today, my friends, is have a listen to the messages that you're giving yourself. Now, if it's a guilt message, so be it. Listen to it. Pay attention to it. Make a conscious decision about what you're going to do with it and then move forward. Sometimes we don't pay enough attention to what our own emotional range is trying to tell us. And when we do, it's no different. Listening to ourselves is no different to paying attention to a toddler who's trying to get your attention. that toddler is going to keep hounding you and keep hounding you and keep hounding you and keep hounding you and keep hounding you until you really crack it. And then you're both having a bad experience. But you've got a choice. You've got a choice to put your tools down for 5 minutes, spend 5 minutes on the floor with the toddler, and then entertain them for a minute more while you go and do your thing really quickly. And then you can go back to the toddler later. So have a listen. When guilt is calling you, have a listen to it. Have a look at what you're doing. Are you caught in the flow of something really important that you want to get finished? Acknowledge that. Give yourself a time limit. I'm going to give myself another 20 minutes. Now, my kids are walking alarm clocks. If I give them a time limit, I say, give me 5 more minutes, they will be watching the clock. I do not get away with anything. And what's even worse, we've now got an Alexa in the house, so they'll set Alexa onto me. They will set a timer on Alexa to let me know when my 5 minutes is up. But I made the decision. I listened to the guilt. I realized I need to spend a little bit of time with the kids, but I also need to finish what I'm doing. So I say, look, okay, 5 more minutes and I reckon I should be done. Because what happens otherwise, then I get lost down the rabbit hole of another task and another task and another task. Because as you know, as an entrepreneur or a creative or a business owner, you know there's always another job to do. It doesn't stop. But why do we do it? We do it because we love it. We love what we're doing. If you don't love what you're doing, then that's a really serious flag to be sitting back and having a think about that. And we can talk about that another day. That's it for me today. I hope you have a fabulous day or a fabulous evening wherever you are. And I'm looking forward to some beach time here in the Australian summer over the next couple of days. Thanks for joining me today. Bye-bye.